This episode is sponsored by Orana Stay, the digital guest guide of the future. Say goodbye to the hassle of traditional welcome packs and say hello to a seamless and unforgettable digital experience for your guest with Orana's fully branded guest experience app. Boost your revenue with powerful features and focus on what you do best, whilst Orana Stay takes care of the rest. Visit oranastay.com to find out more. Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Accommodation Show. This week, I am joined by the amazing Roger Graham from Orana Stay. Welcome to The Accommodation Show.
Thanks, Bart. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can discuss today.
I'm absolutely excited. I'm ravenous for this particular topic because this week, we're going to be talking about personalizing the guest experience with digital guides. And that's one of the holy grails that I think that a lot of businesses haven't achieved, and that is incredibly important in 2023 and 2024 and moving forward. So I'm excited for today's topic. But before we get going, I'd love you to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from and what it is that you guys do in the industry.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bart. Well, obviously, I'm Roger Graham from Orana Software, and we are the creators of Orana Stay. I've been working in the software industry for approximately 20 odd years now, but I'm what I call a tech entrepreneur. So we love creating solutions for our customers, really listening to what people want, and then creating those solutions that really drive the interaction and really add value to your business.
Yeah, look, and I encountered you folks at the Astra conference, which is the Australian Short-Term Rental Conference. But what I like about you is that I think we're kindred spirits, because we're all about kind of hospitality and looking after people, understanding their experience and their journey, but then mixing it with our knowledge of the technology side and what's required to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to make a functioning product for a guest. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the keys, is that in this industry, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of bits and pieces that kind of all really need to talk to each other. And if you don't really know what you're doing in that space, it's very hard to join those dots. And I think that's something you do really well, Bart. And I think it's something that I love doing it. And I think it's going to create something really wonderful in 2023. Yeah,
and it's a really fascinating one. And I think that most people, when they think about websites, when they think about technology, that they'll just go and create a website, which is a free website. There's nothing wrong with a free website, by the way. Most websites that are ever built are kind of built off of a free framework.
Yes.
But the key is actually getting that framework working correctly so that it works seamlessly on the guest side, right?
Correct. And this is all about seamless. It's about basically integrating and automating your processes, because if you don't do that, and if you look at the amount of time you spend trying to do stuff manually, you're kind of wasting your money. You should be building your business, not spending all your time doing administration.
Well, that's right. And then, I mean, it's interesting because you folks are doing digital guides, right? Now, me as an entrepreneur, I'm like, oh, maybe one day I will start creating digital guides, but you will know very well that there's absolutely zero chance of me getting into that field. What are those barriers to entry for people to create products that really work?
So digital guides are quite a complex area. They look very simple on the outset when you see, well, the guest has got this guide, and they look at it, and it's really the tip of the iceberg. I always say to people, it's like the Titanic. It's all the tip of the iceberg, but wasn't really knew what all the stuff behind the scenes are. And there's a lot of infrastructure and technology that goes behind that to actually drive those guides. And where we're going, obviously, within Orana Stay is really automating and integrating. So we really want to take that experience and really personalize it for the guest. And the only way you can do that is through automation and integration.
Yeah. So look, it's interesting. So the personalization part is something we're going to be talking about today, and how important it is to the user journey, the guest experience. And I really want to be clear that your solution, it will work for a short-term rental. It'll also work for a hotel as well. You guys are quite agnostic in terms of which one you're working with.
That's correct. Yes, it'll work Ideally, our ideal market is if you have more than 5 properties, but certainly it'll work in standalone. We've got our Orana Stay Lite. That's really for your smaller properties. Where the integration and with automating it between the links between a property management system such as, say, Guesty and Orana Stay, what that allows you to then do is starting to create that personalization experience, because you know the information about the property, you know the information about the guest that's coming into that property, and you can now automate the process of those guides and really personalize it to that guest. And then over time, once you have more history about those guests, and especially guests that come back, you can then start saying, well, hang on, you know, when they stayed here last time, they bought this bottle of champagne. Well, maybe we should be offering it to them again, etc. So it's really starting to learn about your guests. And also that's where AI is going to start coming into play, where it really adds value, is being able to predict those kind of scenarios.
Oh, you're getting way ahead of yourself when we're going into AI, which is important. And the interesting thing with AI, and for a lot of people, just conceptually, we've been using AI for a long time, and it's been around for ages. And a lot of it's just seamless in the background. You don't see that it's actually happening. But when you're typing a word into your phone and then it auto-corrects it, you're already in the world of AI. So it'll be interesting to talk to you about where you see that progression with the AI. But I want to kind of wind it back a little bit for people, because we want to give them some ideas, some inspiration for what they could be doing with these guides in their properties. And if they already have digital guides, we'll be talking in a second about where they're going to go and what you progress to. But if we go back to the basics in terms of the real function of a digital guide, what are the benefits of having a digital guide rather than an old school paper one?
Well, absolutely. I mean, just from the maintaining paper guides, it's a bit of a nightmare. So first off, you're getting rid of the paper, which is going to obviously save you money. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to engage with your guest literally from the time they book until after they've left. Because a guest that's engaged is going to have a far better experience when they stay at your property. They're going to arrive knowing information about the property. And we all know people don't read emails anymore, but they do sit on their phones. If anyone's sat on a train lately or anywhere that there's mobile phones, you'll see everyone with their head down looking at phones because they read that information. And the most important bit as well is that your brand is on their phone. It's an icon on their phone. We know over 70% of people never delete icons off their phones. So you've got a captive audience in terms of who's looking at your guide, accessing that information. But the most important part of what is when they come back, you want those guests to come back. And when they come back, you want them to book direct. And basically from that app, it'll take them straight to your book direct site. You're saving on those OTA fees, and you're getting that repeat business.
So you're building that loyalty with the customer by them engaging in your platform and your network and kind of that whole product offering. And I find it interesting as well. The guest journey and the guest experience is something we talk about a lot, especially when we're talking about doing things like upsells, doing promotions, that sort of thing. And guest guides are critical in that process, because what you're doing through the guest guide is you're creating a new way of interacting and engaging and communicating. And one of the things that I find interesting is that you have the opportunity to sell to someone when they're at the checkout on your website. But then the real business gets started after that, because you can do all your upsells and cross-sells and everything on the website. But then as soon as they've booked, you're sending them an email confirmation. And at which point you could be saying, hey, why don't you buy this? Why don't you buy that? Or and especially if you know your guests, then you can offer them products and services relevant to them. Bear with me. Then you can also get them, because I know you're probably excited to answer to this, but then you've got the next opportunity, which is to get them before they arrive, right? So you can send them an email 7 days and 3 days before they arrive when they're getting quite excited. Then you've got more opportunities to communicate with them when they arrive. Then you've got more opportunities whilst they're there. And then once they check out, you've got all these opportunities to ask them to rebook, or, for example, to send a promo code through to a friend as a referral to get them to book. So there's all these opportunities to interact with the guests. Now, going back to your point, people don't really read the emails.
No.
But if you give them a link to a guide which is relevant to where they're staying, it becomes a bit different.
It does become a lot different. And what you touched on there really is one of the messages we've been saying, is that when you have people stay with you, you've got a captive audience, and you've got them captive from the time they book because they're interested in where they're going. And the more information they can get and the more opportunities you can give to them to buy stuff, the more money is in your bank pocket, in your bank account, basically. And the beauty of the guide is you're absolutely correct. You can upsell information, but you can also on-sell. So, for example, in the area, you may have wineries that you can create a relationship with, where you recommend people go see these wineries, but you can actually order the wine from the app delivered straight to your door. Items you may have in the room. One of the art discussions we had recently was in the area, there's a local artist that does paintings, and we said, well, why don't you take those paintings from the local artist, put them in the property, and offer them for sale? Because you're supporting the local community. You're not having to go and buy the paintings yourself for your property, and you're actually making a profit out of that as well. So there's so many different opportunities that this opens up for you. And I think one of the aspects is it is a digital guide for guests, but it's also a very powerful marketing machine for your business, effectively.
So we just finished up our Revenue Maximizer Mastermind, which is a program where we were talking about these different opportunities to upsell and cross-sell and all this sort of thing. And the one thing that I'm trying to get away from is the idea of selling. And what we're trying to do is improve people's experiences and, just make it that bit more comfortable. And people will pay for it, and they'll be quite willing to pay for it as they go. So the guest guide thing is not new. I think a lot of people know about it. They might not have done it themselves, but one of the things that can be quite challenging is the actual implementation. So especially when we're talking about volume, we've got to set up all our properties. We've got to get them, get all the pictures, get all the local information. And that especially if you're above 5 properties, it can be quite arduous to do. And I know this is kind of a bit leading because I know you folks are working on doing some integrations for that. I would like to know, what are the main benefits that you're seeing to a host to have integration between their guest guide and whatever their property management system or software is?
So what we've got to bear in mind, and you're spot on there, is the minute you're above 5 properties, it starts becoming a problem. You don't literally have the time. And I think the biggest resistance people have to these digital guides at the moment is the fact that the amount of time it takes to set them up. So our focus over the past while has been, how do we reduce that time and effort to not only set them up, but then you also got to maintain them going forward. One of the key aspects is obviously the integration side. And where the integration comes in is it allows us to seamlessly connect your PMS through to the digital experience guide, but not just basic information. We're talking about a full integration. So what that means is you can select images in the digital experience guide straight from your PMS, for example. Other examples might be that you've got content in your PMS that you'd normally send out via emails at the moment. Well, you can include that content in the digital guide and also update it automatically. So the minute you make a change in your PMS, it's one source of truth is what I call it. That information will automatically flow through to the guide, and it'll automatically publish new versions. And the next time a guest accesses it, it'll effectively be up to date with you having effectively done nothing.
Yeah, amazing. So, if you've got pictures and that sort of thing that you're changing, if your descriptions change, if
Correct.
If an amenity is changed in the property and you need to update it, then that's going to push through. So that's awesome in terms of that setup part, which can be quite a lot. But for me, the real beauty is this personalization, this idea of personalization, and I think for those of you that are listening, a great way for you to understand this. And I'm sure there's so many examples, maybe you've got some as well, Roger, but when you go into a hotel, they quite often now they put your name up on the screen. Welcome to our hotel bar. It kind of ends there, right? That's the end. That's the end personalization, right?
Yes.
But now even if you're using Google, if you're using all these different services, they will greet you by name, but also they'll start to recommend things based on your tastes and wants and that sort of thing. When we do an integration, then we have equal opportunities to start to talk to our guests
Absolutely.
In a more personalized way.
Yes. So basically what will happen is from the PMS system, we will get the booking information. We obviously store that very securely. One of my passions is cybersecurity, so it's one of the things I make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. And we've really designed our platform around that whole concept of cybersecurity. But what it does is that booking information comes through to Orana Stay, and then part of the process is each guide you can start personalizing the information, the experience for the guest. As I said to you earlier, if we got historical information, we can then start saying, well, hang on, this guy, when he stayed here 6 months ago, he bought XYZ. Well, let's promote that to him. But you've got to have that history in place to start doing that. So the sooner you start, the better. But what it really does is to personalize. And then what we've done is, because we work quite closely with property managers, and property managers typically will have 200-300 properties on their books. What it allows them to do is really create their own property management guide. They don't have to have separate guides for every property. They have one guide for their management company. And when the guest accesses it, they get a unique PIN code that gets sent to them. It automatically takes them to their property, but it really personalizes it. It'll say, "Dear Bart, welcome to XYZ. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of days. This is when you're arriving. This is when you're leaving." And we can also change the content to display during the journey. In a guest's journey, there's typically 5 stages, which is the pre-arrival, the day of arrival, your stay, pre-departure, and post-departure. And for each of those sections, you can really decide what content gets shown to the guest during all those phases. And as I said, as you get more and more history, you can adjust that content, etc., to really take into account certain aspects of their stay.
My mind boggles. And one of the things that we had talked about probably a month and a half ago, because full disclosure, Orana is sponsoring the Accommodation show, which is very much appreciated. Yes. And I mean, I think we would have done this episode regardless of that. But one of the things that we talked about when we were putting together your sort of your package, or what we were going to be talking about, was the future of digital guides. And I think that what you're doing, you're scratching the surface of a massive opportunity.
Correct.
In terms of what you could potentially do.
The potential's huge. I mean, the other side of it, if you just ignore the digital guide per se for a second, is the whole communication that has to go with that digital guide as well. So you actually really want to start communicating through the app. So the whole of communication, sending emails at certain events, starting to really know your guest. Who is your guest? What do they like? What don't they like? And also getting personal information. You've got to be obviously careful in how you store that information, etc., and use it, because there are rules that govern us in different parts of the world. But what you can use, you really want to use that to your benefit, to really market your properties to your guests. And I've always said to people, it's far easier to get guests to come back to stay with you than to keep looking for new guests to always come and stay with you. And I think that's a critical factor in this whole process. But the mind does boggle as to what's going to happen. I mean, as we said, we're not going to go into it today, but AI is going to change the way this is going to work. But also automating a lot of the processes. So, for example, a lot of the guides, you have to set up restaurants and attractions in the area and local events. Again, it's automating those processes. So the guide should be intelligent enough to know where you are and showcase that information for you automatically without you having to go and set it up manually.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I feel that what's interesting with the AI part is I think that it's always going to be the AI will take care of 80% of it, and then you put your secret sauce on top.
Correct.
To finish off that job. And I think it's going to be that way at least for the next few years, and maybe a few years time they'll figure out a way for it to come from Bart's voice or Roger's voice or Roger's experience in your life, right? Because
Correct.
I think that's the one key thing, is that guests they don't want to feel like a robot is talking to them. They want to feel like it's a human who's thought about them. Even the hotel example is quite an interesting one. Like when I see that, I'm like, oh, they thought of me.
Correct.
I didn't think the system thought of me. I was like, oh, they actually personally thought of me.
Yes.
So getting that right is going to be critical. I want to ask you about something else. We're talking about this guest journey, and one of the things you said, which I want to come back to, is people don't read emails anymore.
Yes.
I've booked a lot of trips recently, and I've probably received at least 20 emails confirming and this sort of thing, but I don't really read them. I just assume that it's all good. I got the
That's it.
email.
Yes,
I'll read the
that's
times it's
exactly what happens.
confirmed. All right,
Yeah,
great. Um, so the other opportunity here is to use SMS as well. So
correct.
as a way of communicating with your guest, and rather than trying to deliver the entire message through the SMS, we're leading them to something which is a bit more unique, a bit more bespoke, a bit more tailored towards that particular guest. Do you think that's an important part to this puzzle?
Yes, it is. Where you got to be careful with guests is, as you said, you got 20 emails. I mean, I stayed in Newcastle a few weeks ago, and I think I got 16 just from the one place. At that point, you've turned off, and I think that's the problem. It's information overload, but people are busy. And I would much prefer getting an SMS to say, you're staying at XYZ hotel, here's our digital guide. That's all I need to know, because from there on, I install it on my phone and I can go and look at any information I want to find out. For me, where I stayed, I just want to know if they did breakfast or not, and I still didn't get an answer until I actually got there. So it's kind of those things is you need to be able to answer the guests' questions, but not in a way where it's taking up all your time to do that. Sure, I could have phoned them, etc., but I'm busy, they're busy, and kind of you just want to be able to say, well, actually, I'm sitting on the train, or I know where I'm going. What's the facilities? What can I do? And I shouldn't be sitting there for an hours trying to find out that information. It should just be there. Boom, I've got it. I should be all good to go. Yeah. But SMS, and also the other one is obviously WhatsApp is quite a big factor today. That's the other one. And
Any
also
WeChat integrations?
yes, there's lots of them. We've got to make sure we focus on the ones that people are going to use, and it depends which generation again you're talking to. So one of the big objections in the industry is, oh, my guests are too old to use a guest app. Well, I don't technically agree with that concept, but we also got to realize that the guests that are traveling today are definitely your younger generations, and they're going to be using WeChat and TikTok and all these kind of different applications. So your guest cards also have to be geared up towards social media. You need to make sure that you're connected to social media, they're interacting with social media, and they can access your social media from the app, because that's another market that's very, very big and it's growing all the time.
It's incredible the number of Instagram messages that we get. We don't have the biggest Instagram profile because a lot of the work that we've done has been appealing to sort of a Facebook sort of generation. And now we're doing more on Instagram, and then just like that sort of, the email doesn't really happen. It's all on the Instagram Messenger.
Right.
And as soon as they say, hey, give me your email address, the whole conversation falls apart. So you have that opportunity to start to get on the front foot. And I think you're absolutely right. The way that people interact with the property is going to change. And I think that what's interesting as well with the guest guides, I think there's two ways to deliver it, which is something that a lot of people haven't talked about. But you could. I'll give you a really good example. My Google Home device, which is probably going to go off in the office right now, it says it now has a screen inbuilt into it.
Yes.
Where I'm getting key information. So the way that I would see, like, I'm not a big fan of interacting with a venue on my phone as such, but I prefer to have a bigger format screen. Like if I'm in a restaurant, I don't really like the food menu to be on my phone because it's just hard to use. But if they gave me a tablet, I'd be like, oh, this is amazing. So as a host, you also have that opportunity, right, to
Absolutely.
give people a tablet and make it really a premium experience.
Absolutely. There's nothing stopping you putting this on a tablet in the room because it's obviously transferable. We actually can take our guide down to room level, so it means you could actually have a personalized experience per room. And where that's really valuable is that if you've got some places they actually rent out rooms, they don't rent out the whole property, and you'll have different features of each room. So a tablet's highly valuable in that level. The only problem with the tablet, though, is you can only use it once you get there. So you'd still want to introduce them to the phone before they travel.
Yeah.
But then certainly you could hand them over to a tablet once they arrive in that room or premises. Yeah.
Fascinating. So, I mean, from a higher level, what we're really talking about is the ability to personalize
Yes.
a guide. It's also the ability to scale,
Yes.
so that we can do
And the scale to grow your business. So if you're a property manager, your business is about getting more properties on your books. And the only way you can do that is to scale. And to scale, you need to reclaim your time, because your time's your biggest enemy at this point.
and that was the last one. It really is that that ability to save time on communicating with guests, with FAQs and that sort of stuff. Like, oh, I'll just check here, answering those questions as you would have in a normal paper guide, but also that ability to change things on the fly whenever you want.
And also remember, it's also about promoting the local area. So obviously in the guides, you can embed videos of areas, you can embed personalized welcomes from owners, from the property managers, etc. You can certainly embed videos of different attractions. So you can make it a very interactive process as well. And that's very easy to do. So it actually takes it probably to the next level that a paper guide could ever cater for. And also remember, you can also do bookings through the app. So there might be restaurants that you want to showcase, or you say to guests, look, I want you to go stay here because you know you're going to get 5% back from that restaurant. Then you can showcase those in the app and say, well, book here. And it takes us straight through to the restaurant booking site.
Now, one of the questions that I get asked quite a lot is, great, I've got my guide, but how do I do that? How do I deal with the upsells? How do I deal with the payment part? Is that something that Orana has built already, or you're planning on building?
We actually nearly finished building that. So built into the app is the shopping cart facility, which is the upsell. That integrates with Stripe, and then depending on which PMS you integrate with as well, we can actually integrate that and send that information straight back against the reservation. I think that's very important.
Is that done as of today?
It is done as of today. We are busy testing it, so it will be released shortly.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this episode,
Yes.
It's done. It's already
Yes.
done. Wow. So that's incredible. That's impressive. That's important. One of the things that I've been advocating with these sorts of ideas is get in, do it, see how it works, see what the response like is from your customers, and then go from there. Don't try to solve the whole problem from the outset, because you won't. You'll probably get it wrong, or you'll do something and the demand just won't be there, and you've spent 6 months on this program of delivering wine for people and no one really wants the wine, or you've done things wrong. So you just get in there and do that, and that's I'm incredibly impressed and enthused that you guys have seen the need for that particular part.
Absolutely.
I think that the next stage is great to have the guide, great to have the product, but getting that connection and what it is that people will actually order and buy, that's where I'll be coming in as a consultant, going, hey, this is how you make it work, this is how you get people to buy
Correct.
things. There's all good and well dreaming the dream, but actually to get people to get the extra leg room on the plane, there's a lot that goes into it.
Absolutely. And I just want to reiterate what you said, because I've been doing software for 20 odd years, and I always firmly believe in baby steps as well. So don't try and do everything at once. It's just, you'll fail. It's too overwhelming. You start with the small steps with a long-term goal as to how to achieve that. So tick off goal 1, get your guide out. Goal 2, let's get your inventory in. Goal 3, etc., etc. And if you do it that way, it's a much better success rate overall.
So look, I wanted to move on to another question, which has kind of been burning on my mind, and we've been talking about it a lot, is the future. And one of the things you said, oh, my guests might not be that technologically savvy, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We can still provide solutions. But I want your thoughts and your opinions on what the future is going to look like in 5 years, and in terms of that guest experience and people having this information at their fingertips.
That's quite an interesting question, Bart. So I think what's going to change is, as I said a little bit earlier in this, is that your younger generation are becoming your travelers, and your younger generation see travel in a completely different light. So 5 years from now, you're going to have another five generations, another 5 years of travelers coming through. Mm-hmm. And the expectation there is that, and if I look at my kids, is everything's on the phone. So everything they do, everything they interact, when they're at school, everything's on a Mac or a PC, etc., etc. So the expectation is there that everything that they need to do on their travels, from booking, etc., is on the phone. Now, if you look at the travel industry already, we do pretty much a lot of stuff on our phone. I mean, I went to the US last year. I booked the flights on my phone. I booked the hotels on my phone. I checked into the airport on my phone. I got the Uber when I got to the US on my phone, and then I got to the hotel and got given a piece of paper at reception. I'm like, what? What do you want me to do with this? And then probably got locked out the hotel because I didn't read the instructions. So I think that's really where people have got to understand, is that the journey has become digital, and you can't just stop at the booking and say, well, that's the end. So in 5 years from now, if you don't have digital guides and interacting and giving people that information they want, they're not going to be staying with you. I think that's the ultimate outcome of that. So you really, it's adapt or die, as I think we're at. Now, we've been lucky and unlucky with the whole COVID thing, is that, yes, the hotels and Airbnbs, etc., all went through a 2-year hiatus, as I call it, and they've had a really good bounce back, but that's not going to last forever either. So it's going to go back to, well, how do you engage a guest, keep your guests, get them coming back? And this is where it's going to really be, is how do I get them, as I said, book direct, because that's where your extra money comes in. When you're booking direct, you save you on those fees.
Yeah, absolutely.
But technology is going to drive this. I mean, we're only seeing the new technology front coming out now in terms of interaction and personalization. In 5 years' time, when we're having this conversation, it's going to be a vastly different landscape. It's going to accelerate very, very quickly.
Yeah, look, and if we actually go down there and we start to go down that loyalty and building that loyalty, I think that you're going to have, there's only so much you can do with providing a 10% discount every time, but integrating that brand through their experience and through everything that they do, and giving people more reasons to use our apps. If you look at the big hotels, they've all done it because they have the budgets to do it. But
Correct.
if you're a smaller operator, you just can't achieve it at this stage. But that will start to change. So already getting yourself ready in that way, I think, will be important. There's one last question that I have for you for today, and I'm more than happy to have you back in the future. And I imagine our relationship, we're going to be working together for a long time. This might be a bit of a corker for you. CRM. So we've talked about personalization, and the data security side is not what I'm getting at. What I want to know is, I haven't seen great examples just yet of fantastic CRM solutions. So for those of you who don't know, CRM is a customer relationship management software or system where you've got your guest details, so that then you can sort of, how much they might have spent in the past. You've got their contact details. If they have an issue and you need to log it so that that so next time they check in, they have a kid or they don't have a kid, or they've got this requirement or not this requirement. Where do you see yourselves fitting into the customer relationship management side, like that data point, that data? Are you going to have it on your side? You're going to keep it on the PMS side, or do you think there's going to be a blend in between?
Well, I'll let you on a little secret, Bart. We are busy building that out. We actually are keeping the data our side, but we actually are collating the data already. So as you get bookings coming in, and they might come in from different booking platforms, we're already collating that data and matching it. So we're not duplicating that guest. But it goes much further than that. It's about creating a seamless communication flow with the guest. And we're not just talking about on the booking, we're talking about going forward. So for example, if a guest has stayed with me in 3 months' time, I might want to say, well, you know what, after 3 months, let's send the guest, check how they are, maybe offer them a special deal, maybe know when their birthday is, so send them a deal for their birthdays, or etc., or know why they stayed in the first place. Was it a wedding anniversary, or did they just get married, and start to actually know about your guest, and then build that communication side, the CRM side, to start communicating to the guest to actually really drive those bookings. That's what you want to do. It's creating that personal experience. So saying, yes, we know you stayed with us last year, you stayed for a wedding anniversary, etc., whatever you want to say. But it's about having that information to hand. Know that they've got 4 kids, for example. Being able to gear the accommodation, the offers have to be intelligent as well. Nothing annoys me more when I get an email saying, "Come stay with us, amazing king suite," and I've got 4 kids. It's not going to work. It's about really creating that experience.
Yeah, and one last tip I'll give around that. It's absolutely critical that you put kind of timestamps on that. You need to know roughly how old your guests are.
Yes.
And the reason is is because in 5 years or 10 years time, they're going to be a different demographic and most likely have changed their wants and their needs, and they're not going to be out partying in their 50s or 60s, or maybe they will, but you get some trends there. But that's exciting to hear about the CRM side, and that's something to watch. But I think that the biggest takeaways here is we're trying to get more usage of the digital guides. We're trying to scale the digital guides, and we're now progressing into the next few years into that personalization of the digital guide. So now is the time to get onto it. Roger, one of the things that's the hardest is kind of that onboarding, the setup. Do you have any sort of solutions for that?
Yes, we do have solutions for that. We've got quite a unique offering, especially for time poor people that want a solution. But also from the accommodation show, obviously, we'd also look after anyone that comes from the accommodation show with a discount for life as well. So to help them get on board, etc.
A lifetime discount. You've heard it here. He cannot take it back anymore. So all the resources and the links that you need will be in the show notes. So if you want to take advantage of it, just jump on below and you'll have all that information. I think that from my end, I mean, we could talk for another hour or two, but I think those fundamentals of getting yourself sorted, I think we have covered today. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think it's just really important that people understand one of my beliefs is personalized service. So the one aspect of our business is everyone's always contactable. We don't hide behind emails. So if anyone even has just basic questions or just wants to find out more, just give us a call. We're here to help. Everyone has a direct line.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that's so important in this day and age, is feeling that you can get stuff done if you do have an issue or a problem.
It's so frustrating when you can't get hold of someone at a business. It just drives you mad. So, yeah.
Got it. Beautiful. Look, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate the support of the Accommodation Show. I love working with Aussie businesses as well, people that are local. Aussie, Kiwi businesses, anyone this side of the world I really love, but I particularly love serving customers all over the world, which I know you folks do as well. So Correct. Any listeners in the US, if you're in the UK, any territory whatsoever, get in touch. They will have some sort of a solution for you. Roger, thank you so much once again for joining the show. I do really appreciate it.
Thanks, Bod. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And folks, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know whether you're using a digital guide and whether it's impacted your business. Put the notes in the links below, and make sure that if you're listening on a podcast that you leave us a positive review, because it keeps us doing what we are doing and providing more valuable content for you. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
See you all later.